Journalism 150, folks. This is a tutorial on how to create a Wix site to use for the Be the Editor assignment. Now I'm going to walk you through how to create a news website and how to populate it with stories. But the stories that you choose to populate it with are, of course, your choice. And I'm going to show you this template, but you can use whatever template you want. And if you want to use a web creator like WordPress in order to create a blog or a news site on WordPress or Weebly or anything else, you can do it. Also, if you want to create your own kind of site, like a local news site or a environmental site or a surfing site, that's fine, just as long as you demonstrate news judgment and have the accompanying document that explains your choices. So having said all that, I'm going to go get started. Okay, ready? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the link that I gave you and I'm going to go to that template on Wix. So I'm going to put that into the address bar here. So I go up here, put that in, and now we have this template. So I'm going to go to edit this site. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to log in, create a login, and so that you can go ahead and tailor this to be your own thing. And then you're going to want to send me the link to the site. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this site. I guess I'll sign in with Google. So I've just created a new email address just for this purpose. And I'm going to go in and use that email account. And that is okay, and now it's logging me in, and it's just setting it up for me. Okay, so here it is, and as you can see, they have a convenient kind of introductory Wix editor YouTube site, so I'd welcome you to go through that and learn some of the details about what your options are for setting this up. But I'm going to show you, specifically for this assignment, what you can do. So I'm going to click out of this for now. And we've got kind of a template here, but I'm going to create my own. These are called categories, and these are called posts, these individual items. And I'm going to create my own specifically for this assignment. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my blog, manage posts, and I just kind of want to start with a clean slate. So I'm in manage posts now. Giving it a second to load. And I am going to just get rid of all these so I can start with a clean slate. So I'm going to go to move to trash, and I'm going to do that with each of these. So I'm going to pause this for a second and just get rid of all this stuff. Okay, so I've gotten rid of just about everything except the last of these, and I'm going to move this to the trash, and now I just have nothing, no more posts that were created as defaults for this whole thing. So the next thing I'm going to do to just set up my blog here is I'm going to go to categories. And these are the categories they give you. But for this assignment, I'm going to suggest these. Now, do you have to follow my suggestions? No, especially if you want to create your own site that's either local or environmental or surfing, whatever it is, right? for the purposes of just kind of showing you how to do this, though, I'm going to call these top stories. I'm going to create a few categories. First is going to be top stories. Second is going to be national stories. Third is going to be local stories. So this one's going to be national stories now instead of politics. Third is going to be local stories. And fourth is going to be opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what I'm doing here. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm just going to go ahead and do this for all these categories. I'm going to create this one for opinion. And you can see there's also sport and entertainment that they give you as defaults. Now you can have categories like that, sports, entertainment, if you want. That's all up to you. But just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to get rid of these, and I'm just going to leave it with these four categories: top stories, national stories, local stories, and opinion. Now essentially these are going to be the menus of my site. So from here I'm going to proceed to create what are called posts, and these are the individual articles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create posts which show my news choices and what I want to play up as like the main news and the news for each category, and then I'm going to assign them to the categories. So I'm only going to have a handful that are actually my top story, but I'm going to have a bunch in each category as well. So in order to set this up, what I've done is I've got a second screen here, and I've already found all the articles that I'm going to use for this demonstration. So I'm going to pull that in from the second screen just to show you what I'm drawing from. So what you can see here is I've opened tabs on my browser for each story that I'm going to use for this assignment. So I've got this story, I've got this story, and then I've got local stuff from the Star Advertiser. I've got stuff from Civil Beat, which is also a local publication, news publication, and I've got a mix here of both national stories, local stories, and opinion pieces. So this is what I'm going to draw from for the assignment. So having said that, now I'm going to show you how you create posts and assign them to categories. So I'm going to move this over to the other screen, but I'm going to draw from this content in order to create the posts. So here it goes. Okay, so I've shown you how I've found all my articles, I've set up my categories, so now I'm going to go to posts, back to posts. Now, if you remember, I eliminated all the default ones, and I'm going to just start from scratch. So I'm going to start with this first story in the national news. Trump had Ukraine envoy removed on false claims, she tells House inquiry. Okay, and I'm going to make a headline for that. I'm going to use this teaser in it. I'm going to use this image in it, and then in the actual post itself, I'm going to have all this article text. So how am I going to do that? Well, let me move this back to the other screen for a second. I'm going to hit create new post. And now, mostly what I'm going to be doing is copying and pasting, okay? But I'm just going to move through this with you, and you're going to pretty much do this for each post. So here you've got the original, and here you got the post you're creating. I'm going to go over here, grab this headline, and I'm going to put this in. Now that seems like a long headline to me. So maybe I'll shorten it a little, and I'll say Ukraine envoy. Trump had me removed on false claims. And I'm going to get rid of that comma. Okay, now do you necessarily need to edit all of your headlines? Not necessarily, but I'm just showing you that that may be something that you want to keep in mind. Okay, so now I want to create a little bit of a teaser so that when people are on my homepage for my website, they get a teaser just like you got with the original New York Times story. So, I mean, on the original New York Times website. So, if you remember, that one looked like this. Here's the kind of teaser to the article that I'm talking about right here. And I'm going to drag my cursor over it and just hit Command-C for copy. And now I'm going to go back to my post, and I'm going to hit Post Settings. And you can see where it says Excerpt right there. That's where you put the little teaser I'm talking about. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to put that in right there. Okay, I'm going to hit Save. Now the next thing I'm going to want to do is add an image. So basically what I've done is I've right-clicked, so I hit Control and then click on my mouse for all of these newspaper images that I want to use, and I created a folder for them on my desktop, and then I uploaded them to the Wix site. So I'm going to show you, quickly kind of how I did that. So basically, I pull up my thing right here. I've got this image, and I would hit Control mouse click, save image as. This is on a mouse, but it's somewhat similar functionality on a PC. And I've got that right there. I've already done it, but and then I would just hit save. So now I've got it on my desktop. Now in order to get it onto Wix, I would click this here, click photo, a photo icon, and now actually if I've got my my folder open right here, I can actually, I'm just going to go ahead and take all of these and just drag them all. You can see how that plus sign opens up, and I'm just going to load them all up there. So I'm going to pause this because it's going to take a while to load all this stuff up there. Okay, so as you can see, I've loaded all this stuff onto my Wix site. And now I'm going to pick the one that's got Marie Yovanovitch, which is this one right here, and I'm going to say add to page. So there it is. And I want to add a caption to this one. Now ideally you would be wanting to credit everything you're doing on here, but this is just a homework exercise, but that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to be always grabbing, you never want to be grabbing and stealing content for the internet. But just for the sake of this class exercise, there's a little bit of problems with handling the photo credit and the caption with the way this Wix template is set up. So that's just something we're going to have to, just isn't perfect. So for the purpose of this, you're forgiven if not all your pictures have photo credits. But I'm going to add at least the caption if I can't also add the photo credit to credit the photographer. So I've got, I just hit as you guys can see, let me go back for a second. I hit this settings button here on the photo, and now it's got a space for the caption. So now I'm going to go back to my image and my news site, and I'm going to grab this caption. I'm going to copy paste. Now I am adding the credit here just to kind of show you that life isn't perfect. So it's got that. You can see it's kind of screwed up the way it sets it up in the first place. But I fixed that, and even if I fix it, and it doesn't look great on there. So if you can't include the photo credits on all these, you can be forgiven for that. I'm going to actually get rid of that just because I think I kind of need to. And as you can see, it's still not great. So Wix isn't perfect. So what I'm going to do is, there are just issues with trying to get the caption to look right on here. So I'm going to change the wording just a little bit so that it'll look better the way it fits in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and jump back in here in a second. Okay, so you can see I've changed the wording a bit just to make it shorter and to be able to fit in one line here. Former Ukraine Ambassador Muriel Ivanovich Center arrives for a closed hearing on Capitol Hill Friday. Okay, so now the next step is just to, there's just two more things I have to do in order to prepare this. The first is I've got to grab the text. So I'm going to go back to here, and I've got all this text. I'm going to grab the authors of the piece. This is what's called the byline in a news article. That's the reporters who wrote the piece. And notice that's hot linked, which I like. And then I'm going to go grab this. This is called the date line, where it says Washington. That means that the reporters are in Washington when they filed the story. And I'm going to paste that in. Notice it doesn't paste in perfectly. I'm going to have to create these hard breaks between paragraphs. And I'm going to go back to this, and because there's ads, so I need to kind of grab this thing in pieces by skipping the ads. So I go ahead and do that, and again I'm going to pause this and get back with you once I've done all that. But basically I go here, I do this, I do hard breaks in between these paragraphs so that it's not such an eyesore. And once I'm done with all that, I'm ready for the next step. So I'm going to pause it. And as you can see, it can be a little bit tedious getting rid of all the ads and stuff and adding the hard breaks. But as you can see, I now have the whole article in here. And now I just have a couple more steps, really simple. One is I go to Post Settings, and this is where I use my categories. So I go to Categories, and I want this to be a top story, but it's also a national story. Now, are all my stories going to be top stories? No. So some of them aren't going to be. But this one, I'm going to make a top story. So I'm going to save it, and now I'm going to publish it. Okay, and I've pretty much completed everything I need to do. I mean, now all I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that same process for each of the stories I selected, whether they're opinion or so the Star Advertiser stuff, I gotta reload. But whether they're opinion stuff or local stories, I'm going to just basically repeat the same process. And in the end, I'm going to end up with a whole collection of stories. I'll kind of show you what it looks like on the back end once I've got them all up there. So again, I'm going to pause this. Maybe what your site is starting to look like once you've got all the posts up there. You notice these buttons here for back to the editor and save. So this is some of the basic functionality. I'd recommend just looking at that, at least at that YouTube video for some of these basic navigational tools. But I'm going to hit back to the editor. Okay, so I was in preview mode before. Then there's publish mode when you're actually ready to put it all up. But preview mode will allow you to play with it and see how it functions. And so now I'm in editor mode. So my posts are all in here under this, under my blog. So I hit my blog, I hit manage posts, so you remember from what we were doing originally. And here are all my posts now that they're up there with the images and everything else. If I go into any of them, I'll see I've put in this caption. This one I was able to get the photo credit in, which is nice. Here's the, oops, I forgot to put in the author right up here, so I might want to correct that. That's the, this is actually a op-ed written by this guy. It's at the bottom, so maybe I'll just leave it like that. With op-eds in the New York Times, they generally will put the name of the author down at the bottom. And so if I go to categories, you can see I haven't assigned it as a top story, but I have put it in my opinion section. And if I now, so this is all of my posts right here. And, I can edit and I can, delete them if I need to and all that kind of thing. And I'm going to close out of this right now, out of this screen. And if I want to see how all this is working, I go to preview. And you can see that my categories are appearing as kind of like menus at the top. So these are all my posts. If I want to look at my top stories, this is top stories. I could have eliminated all posts, in which case, it would be more tightly organized just the way I wanted. Again, you can do that in that manager that I showed you at the beginning of this video. But here are all my stories. Local news. And again, I organized all these through that category function that I showed you in the post. Now, the other thing is there's a lot you can just do with the site. I mean, for one thing, you definitely want to name the site. Give it your own personal name. You don't want this default. You're going to lose points on this assignment if you just kind of leave the defaults the way they are. So I would change that. There's a lot of things you can do here to kind of change the look and tailor it the way you want. And like I said, you don't need to use this template. You can use whichever template you want. But at least now with this video, I've kind of showed you everything you need to do to set up the blog just the way you'd need to complete the assignment. So we'll talk about this in class, but if you have any questions, you can also email me. Definitely with troubleshooting things, it's better to do it hands-on and in person. So I'd recommend, if you're having problems, to bring your laptop and any questions to me, or to email me about meeting me during office hours. And I think that is pretty much it. So thank you very much. Good luck.